Good morning. How are you on this beautiful morning? Very good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Reverend Pat Bessie, and it's my joy to welcome you here this morning. And so one of the rituals I usually do, because we have an online presence as well as in here, is I give a weather report. I love giving weather reports because it also reminds me how grateful I am to be here in Maine. And today is an absolutely glorious day. Warm, it's not warm, it's in the 70s, maybe low 70s, no humidity. I love it. And that's why I live here. I lived in Virginia Beach for 10 years. And there was one thing that never worked for me, and that was living in air conditioning 24/7. So I'm very grateful to be back home. I want to just share a little story that was really funny. For those of you that have been to Virginia Beach, you probably know that we don't have the kind of trees that we have here in Maine. And so we moved back to Maine in the spring of 2008. And we moved to Rangeley, if anybody is familiar with Rangeley. And I walked out, it was in September, and I walked out to get into my car, and I heard this noise. And I thought, what is that noise? And I stood there for a moment, and our place was in amongst trees and everything. And it was the rustling of the wind in the leaves that I hadn't heard when I was living in Virginia Beach. And it was like, yeah, I'm home. So there's my story. And I'm going to invite us to stand as we open up our hearts and come into this time together.
This is a place of love. We come together as people of prayer. This is a house built on love. Come, let us gather in peace. This is a sacred space. We join our hearts here in one loving family. This is a house built on love. We come together as people of prayer. This is a house built on love.
And please be seated. And I'm going to invite you here in this room and those of you that are joining us online to join me in prayer as we open up our hearts and our minds to this beautiful day. Gratitude just surfaces. Think of one thing right now that you're grateful for. Probably more than one rushes in. But I'm grateful to be walking this earth today, to be here now, in this time, in this life. There's a lot of turmoil, wouldn't you say? There's so much that's churning up and moving through. And we are here to be the light bearers. We are here to be the bridge as people are coming awake, becoming more aware, becoming more present to the truth of their being, that they are fully divine and that they are fully human. And in any one moment, we're either fully in our fully divineness or we're in our fully humanness. And right now, I'm going to ask that we let the love that we are just pour out. Let it go right out. It's just going out the door and down the street and into the world. And it's meeting up with all the other love that's out there. and it's going to wherever it's being called right now. And there are many places on this planet that love is needed. And we can be an instrument of that love and an instrument of that peace. And all we have to do is just stand in love. Sometimes that's not as easy as it is said. But we know that love is the answer. Love is the healing balm. And for that and so much more, we say thank you, God. And so it is, and we let it be. Amen. Amen. Wow. So I am very excited this morning because we have with us a guest speaker that is not a stranger to this community. He's been in part of this community for a long time. And I'm looking forward to the message and the music that he brings to us this morning. It is Todd Gleasy, and I'll give you a more formal introduction in a little bit, but I'm very glad that you're with us today. And so now is the time for us to stand and say together our invocation. If you'll join me in that. And for those of you online, please join me as well. And as we say it together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. And you can put whatever name you have for God in there. It could be love. Whatever works for you, that's what you use. And we have a vision statement. And that vision statement is centered in divine love. We celebrate a spiritually transformed world. We celebrate a world where everybody knows the truth of who they are and that they stand in love, that they are kind and respectful and generous. When we have that going on, then we're going to see that spiritually transformed world. And the only way that we're going to see it is when we become it. And then we have a mission statement that we live by, and that is Unity Center for Spiritual Growth reaches in to reach out through education, service, and creation of community. Everything begins in prayer, and then we take the guidance and we apply it wherever it is being called. And we have core values that we live by, and they are, we are loving, we are accepting, we are authentic, we are transformative, we are soul-centric, we are compassionate, and we are welcoming. And when we're living our core values as a community and individually, then we're serving our mission and we're on the road to seeing a spiritually transformed world. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dina for our community song.
Thank you. The song this week is One Door Opens. There it is. One door opens and another closes. One door closes. One door closes and another opens. One door opens. One door opens and another closes. One door closes. One door closes and another opens. One door opens. Letting go, letting be. I release the need to see round every corner of my life and how it all will be. One door opens and another closes. One door closes. One door closes and another opens. One door opens. One door opens and another closes. One door closes. One door closes and another opens. One
one door opens.
I have faith, I believe, I will trust, I will receive all the guidance that I need, one moment at a time. One door opens and another closes. One door closes. One door closes and another opens. One door opens. One door opens and another closes. One door closes. One door closes and another opens. One door opens. With open heart and open mind, with empty hands, I know I'll find the strength for all that lies ahead, and all I leave behind. One door opens and another closes. One door closes. One door closes and another opens. One door opens. One door closes. One door opens. One door closes. One door opens.
Please be seated. Whew. That stirred up some emotion. Thanks, Dina. Ah, this is a time in the service that we get to greet one another. And the same is true for those of you that are online. If you are here with us for the very first time online, please put your name in the chat box and let us know where you're from. And we would love to greet you. Christine is at home watching and monitoring the chat box, so she will respond to you. But we really love to know who's with us, especially for the first time. And then, of course, we have first timers right here in our audience. So I'm going to ask, or in the congregation. So if you're here for the first time, please raise your hand. So we have gifts for you. Yes. Wow. Welcome. We are so glad you're with us. What you're receiving from our ushers are packets with inside is information about Unity as a movement, as well as Unity Center for Spiritual Growth. What's on the outside is what I'd like you to focus on, and that is on the little smiley heart. If you would put that on so we can greet you individually at the conclusion of the service. And then also there is a welcome card. And if you feel so moved to fill that out and leave it with us, we will add you to our database and you will get our weekly email blast. We send one out on Wednesdays, which is a little note from me as well as events that are happening. And then on Saturday night, there is another e-blast that goes out, which last night I do want to say, it said masks were required, but because of where we are in our county, that's not so. So if you have a mask on and you don't want to wear it, great. If you have one on and you want to wear it, great. So if you once you fill those out, if you want to either leave them on your seat or hand them in to one of the ushers, we will then take them from there and do what's needed with them. So, and now we greet one another, and how we do that is we sing Namaste through once, and then the second time through, we give eye contact, bows, however you feel guided to greet the people around you. So, let us stand.
Namaste, namaste, My heart sings Namaste. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.
Thank you. Now we all know one another. So for those of you that are new or fairly new, this is the time in the service that I share what I see as the foundational teachings of unity. And they are our 5 basic principles. And I share these with you every week because I see them as going into your toolbox, into your spiritual toolbox. And so when you come up against something during the week, and I don't know anybody in this room that hasn't had something come up this past week that took your breath away, or that stopped you in your tracks, or that you felt that in your stomach. And this is where we use these principles. And the first one is that God is good and everywhere present. Love is good and everywhere present. There is no place that you are that love is not. Because it is not something out here, it's something in here. The second one is that everybody is inherently good. At the very core of our being, I mentioned in the prayer that we are fully divine and we are fully human. And that fully divine part of us is absolute, perfect, good, always there. If you grew up with the idea that you were an original sin, I'm going to ask you to cancel that right now, because you are an original blessing. We are all original blessings. And we are all a blessing throughout our whole lifetime and into the next lifetime, because we are inherently good. The third one is that our thoughts create our reality. And sometimes we don't even realize what the thought is until we feel the sensation going on in our bellies, that sense of, that impending doom, that kind of, it's like a fog that comes over us. And we think, what's going on? And then this is how it works for me. I don't know if it works the same way for you. But then I think, what was I just thinking? And usually the thought that I was just thinking was not one that was going to uplift me. It was one that was taking me down. So I know enough now to change my thinking. I know enough now to shift to something that's more interesting, something that's going to uplift me rather than pull me down. And this is how our thoughts work. Everything is created twice, once in the mind and then in the physical. So when you are realizing that you have the power, and this is power, friends, you have the power to control what you think. You can stay in a place of calm, peaceful, love, all of that. But you know, what does it take? Practice, practice, practice. If we're not practicing it, it's never going to happen. So be aware. I often tell you, stand guard at the portal of your mind, because whatever is going in there, you want to make sure it's what you want. And I'm not talking about the random thoughts, because those will come and go. They're like logs going down a river. It's the ones you grab onto and you muckle onto and you hold tight. Those are the ones you want to let go of. The fourth one is prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation is our conscious contact with God, with love, with spirit, with whatever your name is. But that is what is so important, that you have that daily contact. You make that a priority in your life. That's called self-care. And when you do that, you're much more apt to catch the thoughts. You're much more apt to remember the truth of who you are and that you are never alone. And so the fifth one is one of the most important ones, putting these into action. Unless you put them into action, they're of no value. They're only words, or they're only thoughts that you've stored away somewhere. So this is a time in the service where I ask you to share with me and all of us how you've used these this week. Anybody have a story that they want to share? Betty Lou, come on down.
Good morning, everyone. Can you? Is it on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a little nervous. So, also, those of you that don't know, I'm also a new board member, and it's really important to be visible for me in different ways. And for those of you that don't know, this is Pride Month, and throughout my life, there were times that I didn't feel I could be myself because people would judge me, and it was very hurtful. And so I'd hide. So I made myself invisible. So I'm coming before my community here because I know that we're welcoming, compassionate, loving, and accepting. And I wanted you to know that part of me, and since it's Pride Month, and there's a lot of different things going on within our community and people challenging our rights, I wanted to make sure I was visible. It was so, as I said before, it's so important to do that and not be afraid. Sometimes I'm a little shy, but also my wife is not here. Her name's Jennifer Joy Greaves, and I'm wearing the sneakers. We got married in September 26, 2020, and I created these sneakers to wear, and they have rainbow shoelaces, and on one side it says, Jen loves Betty Lou, and on the other side, Betty Lou loves Jen. So I'm standing here for both of us. I'm standing here for my community, and also for all of you to share that I am proud of who I am. I'm proud to be a part of this community because you all are welcoming to me, and it goes back to you also. Thank you.
Good stuff, honey. Yeah. Thank you for that. Wow. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? That was a great share. Yes, Mimo. I know.
Thank you. My name is Mimo, and I have two older sisters, one of whom I'm close to and one of whom I was estranged from for about 30 years, and we've been texting since the COVID started. I hate texting. It's my least favorite way to communicate. However, I have been happy to be in touch with her, even through texting, to be in touch with her. So a couple of weeks ago, a text came through that I received as very hostile and very repeating behaviors from my childhood. And it really struck me that I was like, wow, here we are talking after a long time, and she's back in that behavior. And what I did was something I don't usually do. I said, I'm done. I'm a fish. I'm a Pisces. I can swim through the water. I can swim around the rocks. And when I'm done, I'm done. That's it. So fairly shortly thereafter, the word forgiveness came to my attention. And I realized that I needed to forgive myself and that I needed to forgive my sister. And I'm very emotional because as a child, I wasn't allowed to be emotional. So what I've come to from the tenets and from living the unity life and from the support here is that I need to forgive myself and I need to love myself and to forgive her and to love her. And I'm so grateful to Unity for helping me learn to turn my thoughts around. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mimo. Yes. Awesome. Wow. So both of these shares this morning really speak to who we are as a community and what our values are. You know, when we look at we're loving, we're accepting, we're authentic. Authenticity is what we just saw with Betty Lou this morning. Transformative with Mimo, transforming an old behavior and moving into a new behavior. I love it. I love, this is one of the most favorite parts of the service for me, when I can see how people are using what we're teaching and making a better life for themselves and for others. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to bring Mimo right back up. You should have just stayed right here, Mimo, because she's going to share our daily word with us this morning.
I'm enjoying the stairs. I want to say to people, this is a really nice addition up here. Those of us who are not 29 anymore. The daily words for today are pray for others. In love and faith, I pray with you. I am honored to pray with others, and I am grateful when others support me in prayer. When praying hearts and minds are joined, the power of prayer is multiplied. My partners in prayer may be in the same room or far away. We may be close friends or strangers. The power of prayer transcends what mere words can express, so we need not even speak the same language. We share the heart's language of love and faith. Although the appearance of sickness, a perception of lack or insufficiency, or interpersonal discord may have prompted us to pray, we set those concerns aside as we say yes to wholeness, abundance, and harmonizing love that are blessings in our lives and in every life. From Matthew 18, verse 19, again, truly I tell you, if two of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. Amen.
Thank you. And now it's my honor and privilege to introduce our speaker this morning. Todd Glacy, as I mentioned earlier, has been a part of this community for a long time. He is an accomplished musician, accomplished speaker, and leads lots of different events and does a lot in the men's movement. So it is my joy, and help me welcome Todd Glacy to the platform. There you go, man.
So I'm going to start by taking us back to the 60s. Anybody remember the 60s? Yeah. All right. And you can join me if you know the words. I have to use the sheet to remember them all. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. And to everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. And to everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time of love, a time of hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. All right, so before I start my talk, I do have to give a shout out to Reverend Pat and Barbara Kowalska for inspiring this talk here that I'm about to do. A year or so ago, we did a workshop around grief to gratitude, and it opened up a deeper exploration for me in this topic, and just wanted to sort of report back to you what I've discovered and learned and found about this idea of grief and the grieving process, and it really ties into everything we've been talking about here today. So hopefully you'll find it entertaining, if not helpful. So I wanted to start off with this idea of change, and the song Turn, Turn, Turn is really about change, and there's all these different types of sort of pithy quotes about change, like life is change, and the only constant in life is change, which was by Heraclitus. And we hear things like change is inevitable, and this too shall pass, and if you don't like the weather in Maine, wait 5 minutes, right? Because it'll change. So I think we all agree, and when you really think about it, it's like change is this thing that makes life possible. If there was no change, we wouldn't be here. But with change comes the opportunity for experiencing what we call grief. And so if we think about it, when things are constantly changing, things are coming into our lives, things are going out, doors are opening, doors are closing. And there's this tendency as humans to feel this emotion that we call grief, which we put names on these things, but it's really a discomfort that we feel, sadness, depression, whatever it might be, around this idea of having to let go of things that we've become attached to. The obvious thing, of course, is people or loved ones, when we have to let go of them when they leave. And the thing that I found very interesting is that as you think about grief and you think about change, that there's the big obvious things that happen in our life that we really feel and deal with. But on a certain level, when we look at it even more subtly, in a way, I've come to believe that we're all grieving something on some level pretty much all the time. And it might be just little things, but what happens is that, like with anything else, if we don't pay attention to it, it can build up over time. And I know for myself, that, I'll just jump right into my big story here about it, is that, growing up, for me, I grew up in a very simple, loving family, didn't have any real trauma or anything, but I had this vision of life as this thing that was very simple and loving and fair, and everybody was happy and nothing bad ever happened unless I got in trouble for something. But as you grow up and you become an adult and you go out into the world, you start realizing that there's a lot of stuff going on that really makes you feel kind of crappy, and over time I became politically aware, and I became aware of all this things and, injustices in the world and stuff that I thought was bullcrap. And, I had this sort of, I didn't realize it, but I had this sort of underlying agitation and discomfort and curmudgeoniness that had kicked in. And I'll tell this story because one thing that made this very obvious to me was early on when I had first met Sue. We were walking down the street one day, and I just finished watching this documentary about plastic water bottles and how bad they are for the environment and how they were causing cancer around where these bottles are manufactured. And we were walking down right by, I don't know, it was Bank of America or something. And I think Sue had a water bottle, and I'm like, these water bottles. And I was, doing my thing. And she looked at me and she smiled in that annoying way that she smiles. And she's like, she's like, I'm so grateful for plastic water bottles because they allow me to have water and stay hydrated wherever I am. They allow me blah, blah. And she's going through this whole litany of why she was grateful for plastic water bottles. And I was like, how can you say that? And she stopped me. She's like, how do you feel right now? And I stopped and I'm like, I feel like, ugh. And she's like, and how do you think I feel? And so I actually tried it on. I'm like, what if I looked at it from her perspective? And I felt this easy, like this softening, right? And I realized that nothing changed out there. I mean, my thoughts and beliefs around water bottles might, that's still the same. But for myself, I realized how important it was to look at things from a perspective of moving towards something that feels better. If anybody's familiar with Abraham Hicks and that type of work, the emotional scale and working up that, and how, it's almost as if not more important as to how we show up in life as much as what we're doing in life. So it's not so much what we do as how we do it. And when I'm doing something out of fear, agitation, anger, resentment, it's very different than if I'm doing something out of love and compassion and things like that. And so that was a huge moment for me. And the way it ties into what I'm going to talk about here is that, and like Pat's been saying, we've been saying all along, like, our thoughts really do create our experience and how we experience things. And so when we're talking about grief and grieving process, it's really important to pay attention to what we're thinking and how we're thinking about things. And so I'm going to sort of share with you what I found to be very helpful in that regards. So let me talk about grief just a little bit. So I want to give you a few definitions. One, grief is the emotional response to the loss of someone or something to which we have developed a bond or attachment. Okay, and this word attachment, in Buddhism, it's all about non-attachment, right? Like one way to preserve our heart from getting broken is to disassociate and disattach from everything, which means we close our heart down. But I don't think that's what the Buddhists are necessarily saying, right? I mean, it's the idea of, that is a phase of it, obviously. We can shut our hearts down, but then we're not really living. We're closing ourselves off from the experiences of life. So I don't think that's specifically the answer. But non-attachment is I believe is more about this ability to go with the flow, to let things in our life and to allow things out of our life, and noticing our need for attachment, which in a lot of ways equals control. It's like, I want to control something, so therefore I'm going to grab on really tight. But anyway, so grief is the emotional response to the loss of something. And anytime we experience change, we can also experience grief. And so, like I said, I've discovered that in a way, I'm always grieving something on some level. The something has changed, and so I need to pay attention to this. And so the title of this talk is From Grief to Grace, and I call it the transformational healing journey of the grieving process. So the grieving process is a process we go through, and it's a process that's taking us from this feeling of grief that we have for whatever reason, and it moves us through these emotions, through these stages. If you've ever done grief work, they talk about the stages of grief. And just for example, like the stages they have are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So I would modify those a little bit. But when we talk about anger, denial, and bargaining, they're kind of the same. Something happens that we don't like, and we want to change it, right? Denial, we're in denial, like, no, that didn't really happen, Oh no, Trump didn't really get elected, right? How many people had that thought? But the idea is that, and then we get angry, and then we start bargaining. Well, maybe if I change this, maybe if I change that, right? All these things that can trigger us, all right? Byron Katie is someone that I really admire, and Byron Katie talks about reality, and reality is what is. And whenever I argue with reality, I suffer, but only 100% of the time, right? Right? And so arguing with reality and what is kind of like wasted energy, and that's why we have to move into acceptance. But through that, we go through these emotions of sadness, despair, anger, whatever, and we need to move towards acceptance. So what I want to talk about here a little bit is the idea of from grief to grace. So we've defined grief. Grace is a definition that I found is called the free and unconditional favor of God/love as manifested in the salvation of sinners and the bestowal of blessings. All right. So let me sort of word that a little bit. Grace is the free and unconditional favor of love, let's say, as manifested in the salvation of sinners. All right, let's unpack that one a little bit. So when we look at the word sin, the original definition of sin means to miss the mark or to turn away from. So when I have turned away from love, when I forget my connection to love, I sin, and usually I suffer, right? Because I feel these other emotions. So I feel separated from love. And what grace does, it's the salvation of sinners and the bestowal of blessings. And this definition I found for blessings is a favor or gift bestowed by God/love, thereby bringing happiness. So happiness. So when we have the emotion of happiness, again, the emotional scale thing, it's like when I'm feeling happy, I am more close to the vibration of love, right? Than when I am sad, and it's not that any of these emotions are good or bad, they just are, but they help us realize, am I in tune with love or am I separate from love? And the idea here of life is that we want to have these emotions, right? We want to feel good. If we were just happy all the time, it'd be pretty boring, right? And we wouldn't learn anything. So the idea is that we go through these emotions, but the work, the practice that Pat was talking about is constantly returning our focus to love, constantly returning to that. And that, to me, is really the key to all of this. And so the movement from grief to grace is this process of returning back to remembering that love is what we are and who we are, and it's the root and the energy behind everything, okay? And so the grieving process is this really important thing that we go through. So grieving takes us from separation back to grace. So the big question, of course, is, well, how do we do this? How does this work? Because we all know what grief is. We've all felt grief. One of the things that we have to pay attention to, and why this is so important, is because if we don't pay attention to it, we can become stuck in it, right? And we all know, and that shows up in different ways. For me, it was this underlying consistent feeling of like, life sucks, and I was just carrying that, and it was exhausting. And it was probably exhausting to be around me and hear me complaining all the time. She's nodding yes. So. Right? So it's really important, not just for others, but especially for ourselves. So one of the first things we talked about is this idea of non-attachment. And like I said, we don't want to close our hearts. That's not the answer. That can be a defense mechanism and can serve a purpose for a while, but we all know we don't want to go through life with our hearts closed, because then we miss out on the huge variety of emotions that we can have. And so a couple of wise quotes here that I've come across that seem to resonate for that are really, when you get down to it, the only cure for grief is to grieve. You have to the tendency is to push it away, to ignore it, to run away from it, because, we don't like feeling not happy, right? But when we do that, it's we know this, that stuff it sticks around and it starts to manifest in other ways. So it's really important to grieve. And so one of the quotes I found here says, what if we simply allow grief to do its healing work in our hearts, minds, and bodies without trying to hide from it or interfere? So what that tells me is that really it's taking time, and this is where meditation and prayer are so important, taking time to just sit and to be aware of what is it in my life that I might be grieving over. What is something that have maybe an attachment to that is causing me to suffer, that I might need to deal with and make peace with. And we go through the stages of grief that they talk about, and the key that I have found, at least for me, and it's probably true for everybody, is that the real key to it all is forgiveness, like Mimo was talking about, that we need to be able to forgive, to honor, and to lovingly release these attachments that we have, and it takes work, and it takes time, and it takes practice, but it's so important and so rewarding, really. When we accept grief as a process of love, all right, so here's the last key. So for suffering, when we suffer with grief, when we get stuck in grief, it's because we forget that it's leading us back to love. But when we accept grief as a process of love, we can experience and endure the pain as an invitation to feel deeply, to accept, honor, and celebrate the past, and to stay focused on love in the present moment. So again, it's not what we're doing, but it's how we're doing it. If I'm grieving something, but if I'm grieving from a place of love, that speeds up that healing process immensely, and it gives us hope so we don't get stuck, right? It gives us this, it gives us kind of a goal, so that we know why we're feeling these and what we're working towards. If we adopt the belief that God is love and love is the true essence of all creation, then we can move more easily towards hope, meaning, and healing without getting stuck in the emotional traps along the way. So basically, everything is a journey back to love. And I'll just share this one last story. A lot of this came, when my mom passed a few years back. And and I had already sort of adopted this belief that, everything is love. And I still had to go through the stages of grief, and it was really interesting how that happened. So, she had cancer, and we kind of knew, we could see it coming, but I had the opportunity to spend time with her, and everything was, there was no issues between us, never really had been, but it was just, I got to say goodbye, which was really important. I knew that she knew that I loved her, and vice versa. I knew that, her passing, I had to go through these things. Of course, when we first got the diagnosis, it's like, oh, she'll get better, something will work, something will get better. And then when it became obvious that that wasn't going to happen, I remember vividly like thinking, oh, well, how am I going to go through the stages of grief? What's that going to feel like? And when she died, I felt sort of this celebration in a way, because I'm thinking she's free from this body that's causing her suffering. I believe that she has just returned to love. So our mindset and our belief system around what happens when we die is a huge thing. A long time ago, I let go of the belief that, you're judged and you spend eternity in this place or this place, which causes a lot of stress, right? It's like, so I knew it was all good, but I thought, well, wait a minute. I kind of skipped over anger. Why didn't I get angry? And I remembered I had this dream one night. And this dream was, I was walking down the road with my dad and my mom, and I think my sister might have been there. I have a sister and a brother. But anyway, in this dream, we're walking down the road, and this red sports car convertible pulls up. And my mom gets in the car behind the driver's wheel, and she's like, okay, I got to go now. See you later. And she takes off in the car. And I was remembering in the dream being so mad at her, like, what are you doing? You can't just leave dad, and you can't, And so through this dream, I'm because she took off on us. What's up with that, And I realized, looking back, it's like, that's where I did the anger work, so you never know exactly where it's going to come from. But I had experienced the anger in the stream. And of course, I could rationalize it like, that was the foreshadowing of what was going to happen. And in the end, I was like, I want to make sure dad's going to be, and then even in the dream, I was able to realize that everything's going to be okay, but I had that moment of being mad because she took off in her sports car and left us there. So the mind and the subconscious and all this stuff, everything, like Pat always says, the universe conspires to support us, right? Everything is working for us to be loving and healing and happy. Okay. So I think I'm going to kind of wrap it up there. I'm going to close with a song. This is a song that came out of that experience with my mom, and I sing it a lot, so you might have heard it. And Dina's going to actually join me because she played on the CD recording of it. And I find that for myself, it seems like music is, I express more, eloquently with music. And so this song really kind of sums up my whole belief system around this. And I still believe this, and it still works. And it's the idea that no matter what's happening throughout all the change, if we can remember that love is the essence of it all, it really makes all the difference in the world. It doesn't mean that we don't get sad. It doesn't mean that we don't have these emotions, but it means that we can accept them from a place of love, which helps us be that love. And that's really, really important. All right. So the last quote I will share with you right here, which I really like, is, if you are living grief, you are a brave warrior of love, and I bow to your broken heart. Yeah. Ready? Time goes by, things live, Things die, things come, things go, things pass on, and new things grow, and behind it all, there is love. And behind it all, there is love. Now things go out and things come in. Some things stop and other things begin. Things rise, things fall, things can be anything or nothing at all, but behind everything there is one common thing. And that thing is love. And behind it all, there is love. Yes, behind it all, there is love. Yes, behind everything there is one common thing, and that, oh, that thing is love, love, love. Yes, behind everything there is one constant thing, and that thing is love. Thank you. So I'm going to invite us into meditation now, and my invitation to you is, as we enter the silence for a little bit, to maybe notice and pay attention to what things you might be grieving over. We know that awareness is the first step towards healing and understanding, and so just notice what things might be present for you. And I'll let Dina take us into the meditation.
When I'm see only love. Hallelujah.
So as we become aware of and acknowledge any of those things that we may be feeling grief towards, we remember that grace blesses us with the ability to forgive, to honor, and to be grateful for those things that come into our lives that we become attached to and that we get to experience. And we also know that opening our hearts and allowing them to be broken is important, because as someone whom I don't remember said, the cracks in our broken heart is how the light gets in. And so again, for each of you, I honor your grief, and I honor you as sacred warriors of love. And so it is, and amen.
Oh, Todd, thank you. So I was thinking, what was I grieving? Oh, I got a lot of grieving going on. But one of the things that it came to me is I grieve that I don't have the strength in my hands anymore to open a jar. Anybody grieve that? Yeah. And I grieve when I say no more ice cream. Oh. Oh, that's a big grieve. Oh, Oh, Todd, thank you so much. That was absolutely beautiful. And, love is all there is. So, yeah, how blessed we've been today. I want to share a few things that are happening because the blessings keep coming. And that is, we are having an open mic night. Yes, Wayne, you're going to come up here and tell us about open mic night. Would you do that? All right. It's on the 24th. It's a Friday night, 2 weeks from now.
Hey there, I'm Wayne. My partner Paula and I just got together about a year ago and started to sing songs together. I've been doing it for 50 something years. She's been doing it for 50 something weeks. And we've created a duo and we're having a lot of fun going out and playing. I've participated in open mic nights before. I come from the bar and lounge and restaurant industry where when you go to an open mic, it's particularly appropriate to drink beer and get paid by beer and pizza. And I've been trying to get away from that type of industry lately. We've been playing at places like farms. Played at a farm yesterday morning for breakfast. We played at a farm a few weeks ago at night. We were trying to play at some of the veterans organizations instead of the lounges and bars. So we're going to try to create a open mic night that's a little bit different. So you don't have to go out to a bar. A lot of people that I know that play music want to bring their music to people or maybe hobnob with other musicians, and they don't want to do it in a bar setting because they meet other bar people, they play for other bar people, and a lot of us are clean and sober and are trying to live that life. So we're going to do this the last Friday of every month. The first one is coming up, and we have some people that have already signed up. And basically, if you have a poetry that you want to do some clean comedy. You might want to sing a few songs that don't have the bomb in it. This would be the place to do it. There's going to be coffee and snacks and things like that. We're going to set up a PA system and we're going to host it. And we're hoping that it's going to be a venue for people who would otherwise not be heard. And it could be poetry. We have a gentleman and a lady that wants to do a couple of skits. Like opera skits. I don't know what they said, but everything is welcome. And so there's posters around somewhere. Yep, and I'll be putting it out on Facebook, and it's also on the website. So we're going to do this this last Friday of the month, and we're going to try to keep doing it because we think it's going to be a good venue for musicians and artists that would otherwise not be heard or be able to hobnob with folks. So very cool.
Thank you. Yes. So volunteers are needed to help set up and take down and refreshments. So see Paula or Wayne afterwards. Next Saturday is a big day here. Next Saturday is the 100th birthday party for Bill Taylor. Whoa, Bill. Yes. 12 to 2 right here if you would like to come and celebrate with Bill. That would be just awesome, Bill. Thank you so much. We have a few other things that are happening. Todd, I just remembered we have something coming up in July, and I can't remember what we called it. Remember we talked about it on the 17th of July in the evening? What's it called? No, it had something to do with music. It was Kurtan. That's what it was. Kurtan. Did you forget too? What? Well, we'll talk. Because when you were up here, I thought, oh, I forgot that. Anyway, we'll talk. Thank you. Yeah. And also, we have Feng Shui workshop that's going to happen in July on the 17th, right after the service. We have so many things happening, friends, that I'm very excited about. But one that I'm really excited about, and that is next week, we are opening up our children's program. And our new youth director is right back here. Her name is Mary. Mary, just stand up so people can see you. Yes. And Mary will be available for you to have a conversation with if you are interested in learning, not learning, but supporting in our children's program. It's going to be an earth-based program built on love. And Mary has some wonderful ideas, and we do need people to support her and be part of that. And if you have children or grandchildren, bring them next week. We are ready to open up. School will be over, and it will be time for that to happen. So take a minute and meet Mary. And I think there are other things, and just check out the websites because Facebook page, whatever, because we're posting all the time. And so now is the time for us to give back for what we've received today. And boy, we have received a lot. And so it is our time for receiving of our tithes and offerings. And these gifts that come in are what makes this community thrive. So your support is so important. And so we have, and if you are with us online, you can go to our website and hit the donate button, and it will take you to the page where the donate button for the actual donation goes. And we would love it if you would support us in that way. And for those of you that are here, if you are, everybody come forward so that you get an affirmation, whether you're giving at this time or not. The other thing, if you are an online automatic giver, just put one of these in. And also, if you do giving by barcode, the barcode works too. And so let us say together our affirmation statement. Together, divine love flowing from me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, for the joy of giving.
The sun is shining, the winds are blowing, the earth is greening, the waters are flowing. Spirit's moving me, and my heart is flowing with love for this beautiful life. Thank you for this life. I am so lucky to be alive. The earth provides all my needs to thrive. So many visions for which to strive. With love for this beautiful life. Thank you for this life. I even thank you for the wind and rain, and all the lessons from which I've gained. Truth and strength will always be my aim. With love for this beautiful life. Thank you for this life. I pray to you to grant me sweet release. I open up to life's harmonies. Make me an instrument of thy peace. With love for this beautiful life. Thank you for this life.
I don't see anybody with a stole on. Do we have a prayer partner today? Okay. Okay, so Barbara will be our prayer partner. If anybody has a prayer request, she's happy to pray with you. And we bless these tithes and offerings knowing that they are here to support this community, to just bring more love into the world. And so it is. Amen. And we do have coffee and tea for anybody that wants to stay and fellowship afterwards. And now let us stand as we sing together the peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as the one source, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Yay! And let us now say the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is swell. Go spread love this week, my friends.